Around 7:20 a.m. on Saturday, August 28, 1976, a car carrying U.S. military advisors in Tehran had a suspicious accident. The passengers of the car, surprised by the accident, were suddenly attacked by a Kalashnikov handgun. After investigations by SAVAK, the King of Iran's security service, it was revealed that the attack was carried out by the MEK. The information about these U.S. advisors was transferred to the MEK by the USSR Security Service. The news was widely reflected on in and out of Iran, with the SAVAK and other military forces focusing their activities on the MEK, but the MEK was busy planning for the future. It was later that more information was leaked from the MEK, information that Masoud Rajavi was secretly linked to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and requested $300 million from Gorbachev. In fact, Rajavi had sought financial support for action against Americans who, according to the Marxist ideology of the MEK, were the leaders of global imperialism. But things did not go as Rajavi hoped. At that time, the Soviet Union was on the verge of collapse and had fallen to its knees. Later, Rajavi's letter to Gorbachev was published, the text of which can be viewed in the Stanford University archive. After the overthrow of the Shah of Iran and the victory of the Islamic Revolution, Rajavi was nominated as the most senior member of the organization to take up the parliamentary seat in Tehran, but did not win the election. In those days, Islamic figures had become more popular with the Iranian people. Disappointed with his lack of power, Rajavi resorted to the organization's past methods and launched armed and terrorist actions against the people of his country. Many innocent people, including the president and senior Iranian officials, were among the victims of these terrorist attacks. The MEK, a terrorist organization, killed 12,000 of their fellow Iranians. These terrorist attacks and street riots eventually led Rajavi to flee from Iran to France and eventually to Iraq. In Iraq, he collaborated with Saddam Hussein, who was fighting a direct war against Iran. That is, an Iranian organization worked with the enemy to fight against Iran. This is how Rajavi's friendship with Saddam was formed. Rajavi tried, with Saddam's backing and his share of Iraqi oil sales, to provide himself with a regular, meticulous, and strategic army to attack Iran. He persuaded Saddam to invade Iran, assuring him that Iran was weak and that an Iraqi invasion would be successful and bring about the defeat of Iran. Six days after the signing of UN Security Council Resolution 598 by Iran and Iraq, Saddam again relied on the MEK and announced another attack in Iran, and launched a new operation with MEK's full cooperation. Rajavi had promised Saddam that he would conquer Tehran with his self-made army, many of whose soldiers were women, within a week. The so-called Faro-Javadian operation, which ended within 4 days, was a complete failure for the MEK. The MEK's return to Camp Ashraf in Iraq marked the beginning of a new phase in the organization's sectarian life. Rajavi and his wife, Maryam, blamed their own soldiers for the defeat, accusing them of being more concerned about the welfare of their families than of defeating Iran. They strongly encouraged family separations, believing that without these emotional ties, their dedication to war would be greater. This resulted in the breakup of many families. After the U.S. invasion of Iraq and the overthrow of Saddam, the MEK, which saw itself at a disadvantage, having lost a major ally, rejected its initial ideology as a Marxist organization against Western imperialism and extended a hand of friendship to the U.S. But its history of assassination and treachery against its own country and the Iraqi people was an unforgivable sin that made Europe and the U.S. hesitant to accept them. Their biggest problem became their designation as a terrorist organization by the U.S. and many European countries. But through money laundering, bribery, and effective lobbying, they were able to solve this problem.
From the name of 20,000 of martyrs of struggle against fundamentalism and terrorism in Iran, it's the best and most important capital of our movement. Thank you very much.
The MEK was forced to leave Iraq on September 9, 2016, now rallying in Tirana, Albania, with the support of the United States and Saudi oil dollars. Its members continue to live the communal life of the past and reside in sectarian militias, but now they wear civilian attire to mask their true purpose, pretending to be a lobbying organization only. With the start of the Trump administration, America's reliance on the MEK doubled. Trump's close associates, such as his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and his now former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, speak at MEK annual meetings, and even Trump himself, in violating the JCPOA by withdrawing from it, cited an article whose author is a non-existent individual created by the MEK. Since then, the organization's lobbying with the Republican Party has grown, and the MEK's promises of meetings and communications with the Republicans have created the illusion that the organization could be an alternative to the Iranian government. Although these politicians could easily have determined the Iranian community's view of the Mujahideen by simply searching the internet, the sums of money they are paid to speak at these conferences blind them to the truth. They make statements that have no basis in fact. Trump, meanwhile, softened his talk about regime change in Iran.
Therefore, the only solution is to change the regime itself.
Regime change.
Change the regime.
Regime change.
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 Claiming incredibly that the United States was in no way seeking it. This unconditional friendship of the Republicans with the MEK contradicts the views of many European and American experts who have repeatedly pointed to the true nature of the MEK as a terrorist cult. Ms. Nathalie Goulet is a French politician and representative of the Ornay department in the French Senate. She said, quote, "What is the guarantee that a group contaminated by the blood of 6 American advisors and who collaborated with the enemy in the war against their country will not take armed action against France if they were deported from France?" Close quote. MEPs have no doubt about the terrorist and sectarian nature of the MEK. They discussed the danger of the presence of the MEK in Europe at a round table at the European Parliament on October 4, 2018. A leopard cannot change its spots. After setting in Albania, Mujahideen al-Kek resorted to the United States to try to sanitize its ugly image. The Americans trusted them. Today, reading or hearing pronouncements and analysis from the MEK is a distasteful experience, one that leaves the reader or listener with no reason to believe the lies that the MEK tells. Maryam Rajavi may be a charismatic woman, but her appearance and demeanor do not hide the ugly stains of treason that she wears. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi had taken tough measures for the Mujahideen Khalq organization because he operated a political game with no rules. Such a volatile history is a serious warning to the U.S. government. How confident can the U.S. be as it puts its trust in a terrorist organization? If another agreement is reached between Iran and the United States, will the MEK then launch more terrorist activities against the United States?